Stevens at the Giants game. What's going on, everybody? Just your opinion, man. Derek Papa, all by his lonesome on this beautiful, beautiful draft day. And I know that Rocka New Era, only guy in the chat right now, doesn't want to hear draft talk. Don't worry, Rocka New Era. I'm assuming you're coming out to the KMBR draft party later, so you're bound to hear some draft talk today. And I'm not going to act like I know what the hell's going on. I think a lot of people don't know what's going on. But I saw Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft last night and it has me a little bit concerned about what could potentially be going down today with the Raiders and Niners. So I'll get to that a little bit later. But for right now, let's talk about the Warriors. Actually, before I do that, I just want to tell you guys, in a little bit, I'm going to be hopping on the BART train and heading over to San Jose for the KMBR draft party. And that's going to be starting today at 5 o'clock. My pops, John Dickinson and Todd Husak, will have your main draft coverage. They'll go through all the picks and break it down. And then me, Adam Copeland, Marcus Boucher, and myself will be at Jack's Restaurant and Bar in San Jose. Come on through, have some drinks, have some food, and we'll react to these picks in real time. Should be a blast. All right, Warriors. Not great. Not great. They lose last night, 109-94, and we knew that the Rockets were going to be the more desperate team, and they needed to be because, as we talked about on Dirty Work with John Dickinson, if the Rockets were going to be down 0-2 at home and then have to go to Chase Center, this series may have been over. But now they have life, and I think they have momentum, and right now it looks like they are the stronger team in this series. And just from the jump, I expected the Rockets to shoot better than they did on Sunday night, going 6 of 29 from three-point range, and they were a hell of a lot better. I think they finished with, what was the final tally here? They were 15 of 40 from three, and, the main difference was Jalen Green went for 38 points, a big increase from his 7 in game one, and everybody just shot better. Even Fred VanVleet, still not great from three-point range, 1 of 7. Amen Thompson, 11 points. But overall, just the Rockets brought more offense. And it's not going to be a ton of offense. They're not they're not going to kill you with, their threes and just their offensive output. But they were a hell of a lot better than what they were on Sunday night. And as far as the Warriors, I didn't have a good feeling when the game started, just because of Brandon Pajemski and his food poisoning. I don't know what the hell he ate. Steve Kerr said it was something that he ate while they were in Houston. And I know Houston has pretty good seafood. So if they were at Papa Do's or what I recommended to John Dickinson, Torchy's Tacos, I would be disappointed because those places are usually good. But yeah, Brandon Pajemski, I think he didn't play much to start. He came back into the game, so that was admirable of him to come back. Maybe it was a puke and rally situation or a poop and rally situation. But with him gone, things weren't great offensively. And then Jimmy Butler and the injury. And a lot of people are discussing today, was Amen Thompson dirty for getting underneath Jimmy Butler's legs and him falling to the ground and having a pelvic contusion, much like Steph Curry had a few weeks ago? God, the Warriors love their contusions. Every injury report is a contusion. And it's semantics, however you want to phrase the injury. But, he hurt his pelvic region, so we'll have to see what happens. But as soon as Jimmy Butler was out, I knew that would change the game. I thought that, the Warriors should lose that game. But, they kept in it. Despite the Rockets' best efforts of them having a 20-point lead, the Warriors still crept up in that game. And then Pat Spencer and Jonathan Kuminga had to play out of necessity. And I don't think that Jonathan Kuminga would have played in that game had Jimmy Butler been healthy. We played it on the show a couple days ago. Steve Kerr said he thought he made a mistake in the amount of minutes that he played Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, but he clarified a little bit in just not the amount of minutes, but what point in the game he should bring those guys back into the game. So I thought that Jimmy Butler was going to play 40 minutes. I thought there was a possibility that Steph Curry was going to play 40 minutes with the gap in between time from when they play on Wednesday night to then having to go to Chase Center on Saturday. But then things got crazy. Things got screwed up. And so then they had to put Jonathan Kuminga in the game. And we'll talk about Jonathan Kuminga a little bit here. But yeah, I thought that in order for them to win that game last night, Steph Curry was going to have to go off. And he played well. He had, a couple of ridiculous threes right before halftime, finished with 20 points, went 4 of 9 from 3-point range. But it just wasn't going to be enough. And once, even though it wasn't a rout, the game had vibes of a few years ago. I think everybody remembers that game where the Warriors, I think they were up 3-1 on the Memphis Grizzlies in the second round of the playoffs in 2022. And then they go back to Memphis and just get completely shit stomped. And that's when Draymond Green egged on the crowd, had that towel in his hands, whooped that trick. And I think all of us turned the game off at halftime because we knew the Warriors weren't going to come back in that game. I think even John Moran was out of that game, and the Memphis Grizzlies just bludgeoned them. And that's kind of how I felt last night. Even though it never got to the point of that game, I think Memphis at one point had a 50-point lead. So even though it wasn't that bad last night, you just knew, like, okay, the Warriors are back to their old selves. They're back to the pre-Jimmy Butler Warriors. So I thought it was going to be an uphill battle. And as far as Draymond Green getting into it with the Rockets, I think that's just his own way of motivating the team for the next game. I think that what exactly? So Jalen Green popped him in the face. That definitely deserved a flagrant one. I agree with that. Draymond's tech after Şengün grabbed the collar of his neck and twisted him a little bit. I think that was more just Draymond's reaction and talking to the referee in that situation. But I do believe that, Draymond was warranted to be upset there. As far as him getting face-to-face with Fred VanVleet, that's just going to happen. And thank God, like, it didn't happen during play. I'm glad that, there was, I forget what the game was. I think it was San Antonio and the Phoenix Suns years ago where Amari Stoudemire went to the court or went into the stands. I forget what it was, but he left the bench. That was it. He left the bench. The benches cleared while gameplay was going on, and they had to suspend Amari Stoudemire for the next game. I don't think anybody will be suspended because there was a shit ton of guys from both teams getting up and, getting in each other's faces. And who was it? Who was the guy that somebody in the chat will remind me? I think I wrote it down here. The guy that threw the towel at Pat Spencer's face. That made sense. Tari Eason was the guy that threw the towel. Yeah, there is no love loss in this series. I mean, these guys hate each other. From Dylan Brooks to Fred VanVleet, they have history with Draymond Green. And even though this is not the same Rocket team that the Warriors faced 4 times previously with James Harden and Chris Paul, there's just still animosity. And, Rockets fans hate Steph Curry. They sure as shit hate Draymond Green. I don't mind that they were in the crowd chanting, fuck Draymond. That's just going to happen sometimes. When Draymond goes to Boston, when he goes to other places where, he's instigated the fans, that's just they're gonna say stuff to him, and I have no issue with it as long as fans don't throw shit or say racist things. Saying fuck Draymond is not the end of the world, so I don't have a big issue with that. As far as the physicality in this series, I kind of like it, and I know some people don't like it. They think it's a street fight. They don't think it's real basketball. I get that, but also that's what the playoffs are. It's physical. And the Rockets have been a physical team for most of the regular season. So this is the style of game they're going to play. They're going to be in a street fight, and the Warriors better be ready for a street fight themselves because right now they've lost all momentum in the series with the Rockets getting life, and now we don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to play in Saturday's game. But yeah, as far as the physicality, I'm okay with it. I think even Draymond Green said last night he didn't think it was as physical as Sunday's game. But yeah, I think Amen Thompson's going to be public enemy number 1 when he comes to Chase Center on Saturday night. And yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. He's going to get booed. Nothing wrong with that at all. I do think, though, wasn't dirty. And I know that people on social media are going to, say, oh my God, he should be suspended. And that's just the playoffs, man. And shit like that happens. It's unfortunate. Like, I can't be a hypocrite. I think there were times where a lot of people thought that Draymond should have been suspended for kicking, Steven Adams in the nuts, or Zaza Pachulia landing on Kawhi Leonard's foot. But I just think it comes with the territory of the playoffs. Things are going to happen like that sometimes. So I don't think Ahmed Thompson should be suspended. I don't think he should be fined. I think it was a clean play. It was just unfortunate. Guys are flying around. That's what happens sometimes. But I do believe that the Warriors can now win this series without Jimmy Butler. If he is gone for an extended period amount of time, um, then I think they're going to lose this series. I think they need him. And I know that the Warriors, have their success against the Houston Rockets many times this regular season, but they also, lost some games against them. And I think that they are just a different team. It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle once they've had Jimmy Butler and the way that he's played, the style they've played, and they need him right now. They're not getting enough offensive productivity from anybody else on the roster right now. It's Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler cannot, or Steph Curry cannot do this by himself. So I would hope that Jimmy Butler plays on Saturday night. And if it's a whole thing where he has to miss 2 games like Steph Curry did, and he's not back until a week from Friday, then I think we're looking at the Warriors being down in this series, unfortunately. Um, I do believe that Jimmy, he's not not to say that Steph Curry's frail, but he's just a different body type. So I do think that maybe he could bounce back a little sooner, and hopefully he sat on ice buckets the whole flight back to the Bay Area. He's getting an MRI as we speak, and as soon as we get the details of that MRI, I'm sure, if I'm still on the air here, I'm not on the air, but on this YouTube stream, I will let you know what the severity of the injury is. We'll find out, I think, sometime today. The Warriors and Rick Celebrini, they're always particularly cautious. So I would not be the least bit surprised if they keep him out of Saturday's game. But then I think definitely that game is in jeopardy. And even if Jimmy Butler doesn't play, I think that they have to mix up the lineup. I think that with the amount of rebounds the Rockets are getting, I don't think going small can be the course of action the rest of this series. I think Draymond, he didn't play great last night. He's handling Şengün fairly well, but I think sometime today it will be announced that he's Defensive Player of the Year, but it's just different in the playoffs. So I do think he needs a little bit of help, and I would like to see Kevon Looney start in these games. And I don't know, you can pick your poison, what you want to do with either Brandon Pajemski or Moses Moody coming off the bench. Quinn Post, good player, rookie season. I don't think he's ready to play in this series. And there are times where he could come off the bench and contribute, but he's just not playing well right now. Honestly, I would feel a little bit more comfortable with Kevon Looney and bringing Trace Jackson Davis off the bench. And I mean, last night just showed you how, the plan went into the shitter real quick because you having Pat Spencer out there. And yeah, I don't think that, Steve Kerr wanted to place Pat Spencer at any point in this series. But with Brandon Pajemski having his food poisoning situation, it was out of necessity. So I believe with what's going on rebounding wise, Rockets, killing the Warriors again, 47-33 with rebounds, 36-26 when it comes to defensive rebounds. And the points in the paint, I mean, that was going to decrease significantly last night with Jimmy Butler getting injured. Where's points in the paint? Well, I'm looking at the stat sheet right now. The Rockets killed the Warriors 46-28 in points in the paint department. So I do think they need to start a little bit bigger. And they haven't done it a lot with Jimmy Butler, but I do believe that we need to see Loon Dog from a couple of years ago. So as confident as we were about this series, that they could possibly sweep this series, that the Rockets don't have the offense to keep up with the Warriors. I would say all of those narratives have gone out the window. The Rockets have the upper hand now, especially if Jimmy Butler is out for multiple games. So, yeah, the Warriors need to prove something on Saturday night. They are They're up Schitt's Creek. They definitely have some issues right now. Trish Jackson Davis actually did play a little bit last night, just 4 minutes. Quinton Post, 25 minutes last night, actually. But yeah, I would see with how physical this series is going, I'd like to see Trace Jackson Davis play a little bit more. And then Kevon Looney, where's his stats right here? How many rebounds did he get last night? Not enough. 4. Yeah, we need to see that Looney from a few years ago. As far as Jonathan Kuminga, look, I'm not going to kill the guy because it's been quite a bit of time since he's played in a game, and he was thrown into the fire. It was a bad situation for him last night without Jimmy Butler, without Brandon Pajemski to go and save the day. That was a big ask of Jonathan Kuminga. At the same time, he is not immune from criticism. And I've seen people on social media that I respect, friends of mine, that are saying, you can't criticize Kuminga for last night. Well, why not? He's a player in this league. He got his opportunity. Why can't you criticize him? And I don't think you should go overboard and say, like, Jesus, Jonathan Kuminga is not ready to play, blah. But you know what? I think it's fair. I do think that at the same time, while it might be he was put in a bad situation last night, and the whole team was put in a bad situation, people act like Jonathan Kuminga has been dealt a poor hand. Like, oh, poor Jonathan Kuminga. He wasn't developed. Steve Kerr's so mean to him. Oh, get the fuck out of here. Seriously. My man Tim Webb nailed it on the head the other day when he was doing Tim's Tuesday takes and trivia about Jonathan Kuminga. He's not as good as you guys think he is. He's not. He's not some superstar. He has all the talent in the world, but god damn it, the love fest for this guy is just unbearable sometimes. So I think he was put in a tough spot last night, but you want to see more. He looked lost. And I was listening to John Dickinson last night on Dubs OT with Greg Silver and Kyle Haar. And I think that, I thought it was a little bit much of JD to say like he was disinterested, like he didn't want to be there. I think Jonathan Kuminga wanted to be there and he wanted to prove something, but he was just rusty. He was rusty and he did not play well. But it's fair to say like maybe the Warriors need to go in a different direction because that was his moment. And if you're expecting him to do the same stuff that Jimmy Butler does, then that was his time to prove it. And he didn't. And I know it was, like I've been saying, it's a tough situation for him. But if you're that good of a player, then you'll rise to the occasion. So, yeah, I'm just tired of the Jonathan Kuminga talk. I think that people just love him for whatever reason, and they side with him, and they understand him going to Shams and saying, oh, I've lost faith in Steve Kerr coaching me. I can't believe he's benching me. No one's trying to sabotage Jonathan Kuminga in his offseason of potentially getting a max contract. He's doing that to himself. So my anticipation is that he will not be part of this team going forward. Joe Lacob can say all the things he wants about this guy's a superstar. It's kind of the same thing with Jed York going on record and saying, like, I think Brock Purdy should be paid, as a top 10 quarterback. But nothing's been done yet because I feel there is a disconnect. I do believe that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch don't feel the same way about Brock Purdy that Jed feels about Brock Purdy. And the same thing with Joe Lacob and Steve Kerr. I think that Joe Lacob loves himself some Jonathan Kuminga and Steve Kerr does not. So I think when it comes down to it, we've heard rumors already from Mark Stein that eventually there will be probably a sign and trade this offseason where Jonathan Kuminga goes to the Brooklyn Nets. And fine, go get your money and go be a superstar for that team. And most likely you'll be the same route as a James Wiseman. You'll become irrelevant. But I would love to get somebody in return of like a Cam Johnson or anybody else on that Brooklyn Nets team that could help with their three-point shooting because right now the Warriors are lacking three-point shooting. It's coming from Steph Curry. And as I said in the past, I believe that the Warriors' lack of size was masked by the ability of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to just take games over with the three-point shooting. And right now they don't have that. They have Steph being amazing, but they need somebody else to step up. So if they don't have Jimmy Butler for Saturday, it's going to be very difficult. Very difficult. So, yeah, we'll see what happens on Saturday, and hopefully the Warriors can get back in this series. Yes, it is me solo dolo, AJ Cruz. Steven is at the Giants game right now, covering for KCBS. So I'll be on here for a little bit more time. But yeah, that's my takes on the Warriors. Yeah, they need Jimmy Butler. Otherwise, they're going to lose this series. That's just that simple. All right. Bear with me, everybody. Rock a new era. AJ Cruz, everyone that doesn't want to hear draft speculation. I'm not speculating right now. All I can tell you is no one knows shit right now. And the people that are tapped in have heard it secondhand from GMs and coaches. And I should rephrase that. People do know stuff. But AJ Cruz. You could say solo cholo, Derek. We don't mind. I'll say it. I'm going solo cholo dolo today. But and as what the fuck's is dolo? That's solo dolo. It's a phrase. Look it up, AJ Cruz. All right, as far as the draft, I'll just say this. I don't know shit. I don't. I've looked at these guys. I think they'll be good at the next level, but who the hell knows? And as far as my mock draft that I did with my little brother the other night, I think that his draft is very unique and different, and I like that. Mine is awful. It's not going to it's not going to be right at all. Like the Panthers trading up for third overall to get Abdul Carter, that's not going down. So as of right now, I think we all know how the first 4 picks are going to go. It's going to be Cam Ward going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. Then at number 2, Travis Hunter is going to the Cleveland Browns. Abdul Carter will go to the Giants at 3. And I guess that would mean that Kayvon Thibodeau most likely would be traded. And then Will Campbell most likely will go to the Patriots at 4. And then the mystery starts at 5. And in the recent days, the hype has been continued around Ashton Genty going to the Jaguars at 5. And I know they have a young GM. The guy actually kind of looks like the GM from Draft Day, the movie. By the way, Vontae Mack, no matter what. And I brought this up on the show yesterday on Dirty Work. Draft Day has a different feel if you watch it with Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy being the agent for Bo Callahan. But then again, P. Diddy ruins a lot of movies that I love. Get Him to the Greek, Made, if anybody's seen that, Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. But I digress. If the Jaguars take Ashton Genty, I mean, I know Liam Cohen's an offensive coach, but there was a ton of problems defensively with that team. And I thought Mason Graham was the slam dunk at 5. I think a lot of people penciled him in. And I think a lot of people believe now that Mason Graham is going to slide in this draft, potentially to the Raiders at 6 or even to the Niners at 11. But if you're the Jaguars and you take Ashton Genty, Ashton Genty's awesome. He is. But for how long? That's my thing. I agree with Larry Krueger. I don't know how long he's going to be a good running back. So, it's not like he's Saquon Barkley. He doesn't impact the game in the receiving department. So, and as my little brother said, Nicholas, his body type and the way that he runs, he could be susceptible to injury. So do you really want to go that high at number 5? Like, to me, he's on par with Bijan Robinson as far as a draft prospect, and Bijan went 8 overall. So him going 5 is kind of nuts to me, especially with the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars become this playoff team overnight if they draft Ashton Genty at 5. And I wonder if it's a lot of smokescreens. I do wonder, because I've heard rumors that the Chicago Bears have to have Ashton Genty. They love him. And Ben Johnson wants to use him in the same way that he used David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. He wants to do the same thing with DeAndre Swift and Ashton Genty. And if they want to move up number 5 to draft Genty, a running back, I mean, I think he fits, but I think that's crazy too. It's crazy also how we believe, I think Daniel Jeremiah brought this up with Chris Long on his podcast. It's crazy how we would think that's acceptable for the Bears to do, because the Bears have done so much with their quarterbacks and wide receivers, and they've improved their offensive line. And getting Ashton Genty, we think, okay, that's a solid move. We get that. With the Raiders and Jaguars, it's like, no, what the hell are you doing? But I've come around to it with the Raiders selecting him at 6. If he's there now, I don't think he will be. I think that maybe the Jaguars are in love with him and want to take him at 5, and maybe the Chicago Bears trade up. Um, but what has me kind of concerned is I look at a lot of mock drafts, and a lot of them are bullshit. A lot of them are just, it's forced on these writers because NFL.com forces you to make a ton of mock drafts. Like Matt Mayoko had to do 6, and in the end, he thinks that Shamar Stewart will be the selection for the 49ers at 11. But the guy that I value the most when it comes to mock drafts is Daniel Jeremiah, and he did his mock draft last night, and I am a little concerned because I mean, as I said, I value his opinion when it comes to the draft process. He talks to coaches, he talks to GMs. He nailed the draft a few years ago when Will Anderson was selected 3rd overall to the Texans. He must have talked to Nick Caserio because he had that in his mock draft the night before. He had it where the Texans take C.J. Stroud at 2 and then come back from the 2nd round into the 1st round to take Will Anderson at 3rd overall. So Daniel Jeremiah knows what he's talking about when it comes to the draft. But I would say this draft is so fucking unpredictable that, I mean, you have differing opinions from John Lynch and Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles thinks this draft's going to be crazy, that a bunch of people are going to trade up, trade down. John Lynch is like, I don't think so. I think with how, he didn't say this, but with how weak this draft is, you're going to see a lot of teams want to trade down, but so many teams want to trade down that, it takes 2 to tango, and some teams just won't do it. So as far as DJ's mock draft, he has the Jaguars taking Ashton Genty at 5. And then he has the Raiders passing on Mason Graham and taking Kelvin Banks, the guard / offensive tackle, at number 6 from Texas. I'm not going to, like, I watched a lot of Texas football. I'm not going to act like I know that Kelvin Banks is going to be an awesome pro. I've watched his tape, his verses where they highlight him in blocking. He looks good, but I think a lot of people view him, Dane Brugler of The Beast and The Athletic, he views Kelvin Banks as a guard. And a lot of people think that he could play offensive tackle. So if DJ's getting intel that Kelvin Banks is the Raiders pick at 6, and I've seen that a lot, actually. I think, a lot of people are saying that the Raiders want to go offensive line. And to me, that must mean something with Colton Miller, because he's not been to OTAs. I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't pay Colton Miller. I think he's one of the best left tackles in football. But if it's all based on a contract situation, I think that's ridiculous. And DJ Glaze at right tackle was pretty good a season ago. They picked up Alex Kappa. Jackson Powers Johnson. I'm not saying their offensive line is perfect, but, and then they have my guy, what's his name? Dylan Parham from Mississippi. That was what was his name? The guy from Vegas that announced that draft pick a couple of years ago. Alon and I had a good laugh about that. But anyway, Ted Knight. No, was it Ted Knight? No, not Ted Knight. The guy that guy's from Caddyshack. What's his name? The guy from Vegas. Anyway, I don't know about the Raiders drafting an offensive tackle or a guard at 6. I think they have so many other needs. I think that it would be very difficult for the Raiders to pass up on Mason Graham at 6, especially when John Spytek and Tom Brady are Michigan men. I think that would be, honestly, there we go, AJ Cruz, Wayne Newton, thank you. I think that the defensive line, the potential defensive line of Max Crosby, Mason Graham, Christian Wilkins, and have your pick of Malcolm Kuntz or Trey Wilson on the other end as defensive end, I think that would be an upgrade. And Pete Carroll had good defensive lines in Seattle. with Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. So yeah, I do think that it would be kind of foolish to pass on that guy. I know that a lot of people don't like his body type, but I would take Mesa Graham at 6. So yeah, and I would rather have Armand Membu if they're gonna go offensive line. I would prefer them to have Armand Membu at 6 than Kelvin Banks Jr. And then we go to the Niners, and at 11, I know that everybody is anticipating them taking a defensive lineman. Whew. In Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, he has the North Dakota State. I think it's North Dakota State. I'll confirm that in a little bit here. The guard Gray Zabel, and a lot of people think he's the best guard in this draft, next to Kelvin Banks. But I got to believe with the Niners, they have to go defensive line. They with how many glaring needs they have on defense, and I don't think there's any starters currently on their defensive line. They have to go defensive line. And I think that a lot of people were putting 2 and 2 together during Matt Mayoko's mock or draft presser, where he was asked what he values in a pass rusher. And he just simply said a guy that could set the edge. And Shamar Stewart could set the edge. Looking at his stats, though, just 4.5 sacks in 3 seasons at Texas A&M. Not a lot of production there sack-wise, but things aren't based on sacks all the time when it comes to defensive linemen. But, yeah, if they don't take Shamar Stewart and just go with the guard there, I have a hard time believing that. And, Walter Nolan, I think DJ has him going. Where is Walter Nolan? Does he have a going in the first round here? It doesn't look like it, actually. Now, if I'm missing him, if I'm not seeing him, somebody shout out where DJ has him. But yeah, he does not have him in the first round from what I'm looking at here. So he has Derek Harmon going. That's another guy, defensive tackle, going 24 to the Vikings. He has Kenneth Grant, the other defensive tackle from Michigan, going to the Baltimore Ravens. But as far as Walter Nolan, he does not have him as a first-round pick. And I know the rumor has been that the Niners would either go Walter Nolan or Shamar Stewart. But DJ must have some intel where he's seeing the Niners would be interested in Gray Zabel. And I think that would be disappointing to a lot of 49er fans. Offensive line is a need. Yeah, North Dakota State, Gray Zabel. I think that, they do need to address the offensive line at some point. But I may not be familiar, and my brother may know this better than me. Is Gray Zabel the type of guy that could be potentially a left tackle when Trent Williams retires? That's the only reason I would do this. I think it would be foolish for the Niners not to go defensive line in the first round. And I've even said you could potentially, take that second round pick and trade back into the first round to get another defensive lineman because they don't have any. They have Nick Bosa and Yatir Gross-Matos and Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins. They need to upgrade. So that's a consideration. But I've also been told this defensive line draft is, very deep. So maybe you could just stay in the second round and get somebody that could be a starter this year. So, yeah, that had me a little bit concerned. I definitely trust DJ's opinion when it comes to the draft. He is the go-to draft guru right now, in my opinion. But if the Raiders and Niners take the guys that he has mocked, Gray Zabel and Kelvin Banks Jr., I would be a little bit disappointed. I do think that both teams should go defensive line. If Ashton Genty's not there, and I mean, Will Johnson, I thought he was going to be the first cornerback taken in this draft. Doesn't look like it. I think a lot of people prefer, the first cornerback would be, it depends how Cleveland uses him, but Travis Hunter is the best cornerback in this draft. But a pure corner, I thought that was going to be Will Johnson, and now it seems like a lot of teams are cold on him because he's not as physical. Jahdae Barron is a little more physical. But, yeah, I thought that maybe the Raiders would be interested, give him the Michigan ties. But I don't think he's going to be a top 10 pick whatsoever. So, Yeah, I think if the Raiders pass on Mason Graham to get Kelvin Banks Jr., I wouldn't like that move. And I think if the Niners don't trade down or pass on a defensive lineman in the first round to get Gray Zabel, I wouldn't like that. And I don't think the fan base would like that either. But then again, you have to be prepared for something crazy today because the 49ers, I mean, we in recent years, I think we've kind of sometimes we know what they're going to do. Like if it's a home run hit with like Nick Bosa, then that makes sense. But then like I don't think many people knew about Brandon Ayuk or Javon Kinlaw. I mean, no one knew about Ricky Pearsall a year ago, and then they made that selection. So it could be something crazy at 11 that people were not talking about. As far as the 49ers and what's going on with the players that showed up for OTAs, you had Brock Purdy show up, and I thought he was going to show up regardless. I think that he's that good of a guy, that good of a leader, that he didn't want any distractions, and he's not going to let this contract situation mess with his growth as a quarterback. So he showed up, and I think that's good for negotiations going forward. John Lynch even said so himself. Diana Rossini had the report yesterday that they're inching closer to a deal. And usually on draft day, there's usually contracts given out. I'm surprised we haven't gotten as much movement as in years past. Like usually we get like a little bit of player movement as far as trades or contracts given out. I think the only one that's been given out this week's the only ones that have been given out this week are Kirby Joseph. He was made the highest paid safety yesterday, and Cam Jurgens. But I would not be the least bit surprised if Brock Purdy gets his contract today or tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that it's trending in that direction, and it's probably going to happen sooner than later here. Quarterbacks usually get paid on draft day. I think it was, or guys get paid on draft day. Like the last 2 years, I remember Lamar Jackson getting his contract the day of the draft when he was going through his whole situation with the Baltimore Ravens. And then A.J. Brown got paid a year ago today on draft day. So I would not be the least bit surprised if Brock Purdy gets a deal today or tomorrow or sometime this weekend. Yeah, I think it's trending in the right direction. As far as George Kittle, he went back and forth, or not back and forth, but he did not show up for OTAs. He was enjoying WrestleMania, and he usually doesn't come to OTAs. He likes to chill in Nashville during the offseason. But he did, yeah, like I said, he didn't show up, and Diana Rossini is saying that is contract related. And he wants to be the highest paid tight end of football. He's more than deserving of that, but I don't believe the Niners are going to do it. I think with paying Brock Purdy and with their wish to go younger, I do think that they're going to let George Kittle walk, and he is going to leave in free agency a year from now. I could be wrong. I think that paying tight ends is not as costly as other positions, but just the priority of it, and it may just be that the Niners are taking their sweet ass time with it because they want to get this deal done with Purdy, and they usually get contract stuff done in training camp. So they could pay George Kittle, but if I had to put money on it, I don't think they do, and I think this is a lame duck season for George Kittle, and then they move on. And most likely he would probably go play in Tennessee because that's where he lives in the offseason. I hope I'm wrong because I think George Kittle is the perfect 49er. He's been a great leader for them. But, yeah, I do think with the way that they've conducted themselves this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't sign him back. And I would think maybe the same thing with Fred Warner. But then again, they have time with that deal. He's got 2 more years left on his contract. As far as the quarterbacks in this draft, everyone is now pretty much anticipating Shedeur Sanders is going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that would be a great move for him. I think that would be the best situation. Mike Tomlin being the leader of men that he is, and he's going to make sure that, for a guy that's only been coached by his father his entire football career, Mike Tomlin will be the perfect, coach for him going forward to tell him, like, this isn't the same old thing. So if Shedeur falls all the way to 21, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised also if the Cleveland Browns or New York Giants trade back into the first round to take a quarterback because they're not going to take one with the second and third overall picks. That's going to be Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I think more than likely it would be the Giants who want to take Jackson Dart because I guess they have Ole Miss ties. But then again, maybe the Browns want Shador Sanders to, pair him up with Travis Hunter. Who knows? But if Shador ends up going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that'll be a good situation. And I hope he doesn't play this season because I won't say his name, but I think who is eventually going to sign there. So it would be good for him to just learn from a four-time NFL MVP for his first season in the league. But then there's Kirk Cousins. One thing I'm looking forward to the next couple of days here is the draft is always interesting, but this is also where you hear trade speculation. And I would not be the least bit surprised if we see a lot of movement, not today, but tomorrow and Saturday, when this draft is kind of weak, that teams are like, okay, I'd rather get a veteran player for that position in need. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we see Trey Hendrickson traded. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jalen Ramsey traded. You're seeing tight ends out there, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews. I think I mentioned Jalen Ramsey already, but George Pickens' name has been brought up lately. And I do think that if I was the Steelers, I would just go with Kirk Cousins. Just rip the Band-Aid off right now and just you can't wait on Aaron Rodgers. I said his name. Oh, boy. I would just go with Kirk Cousins. I would. And the whole, like a Diana Rossini put out the other day that the Falcons could trade him to the Browns, Steelers, or Vikings. It makes no sense for Kirk Cousins to go back to the Vikings. I don't get that whatsoever. So I don't think that's happening. But I think if the Steelers have their hearts set on Rodgers and the Browns already signed Joe Flacco and they're going to draft a quarterback, then Kirk Cousins might be just better off being a backup and collecting his money. But I do want to see some trades. I want to see Jalen Ramsey moved. I want to see Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Trey Hendrickson. It'd be fun to see more player movement because I think that with the way GMs feel about this draft, it may be better to move draft capital in order to get a sure thing than what you're banking on in this draft. All right, everybody. I think that's going to be it for today. A little quickie to go over the Warriors and the draft. And I hope you guys come out to Jack's Restaurant and Bar in San Jose. Draft coverage will start at 5 o'clock today. But me and Copes are going to do a little bit of dirty work at 4 o'clock. So we'll do that once the Giants game ends. But yeah, we hope to see you guys there. Otis Bird, Rocket New Era, AJ Cruz, all you guys that complain about the draft, but are still going to show up to the draft party. The irony, the goddamn irony. All right, I'll see you guys there later today. Me and Steven will be back on Sunday at our usual time of 11. And Alon Desai is going to join us, as he usually does, the Sunday after the draft. We'll go through what the Raiders did, what the Niners did, and we'll also react. Well, we'll get Steven's opinion on what transpired in Game 2 between the Warriors and Rockets, but we'll mainly focus on Game 3 and see if Jimmy Butler played and see if the Warriors get back to have the lead in this series. All right. To Rocket New Era, to Otis Bird, who says he won't be able to make the draft party tonight. All good, Otis Bird. You're a hell of a guy. Rocket New Era, Otis Bird, Ernie One, and AJ Cruz. I think that was it for today. Hope to see you guys later today at Jack's in San Jose. And let's see. How can I end this thing? You guys might think that it's lame to watch draft day before the draft, but you know what? Movie's grown on me, and it's not as bad as you think. That's just my opinion, man.